In this video, we're going to focus on how we can create a custom legend like this, and then including a label here, depending on that, with the colors. And if I click on this, as you can see here, it disappears nicely here, and it moves as well. So if I refresh here, you can see here it moves with the animation, which makes it very, very nice. So let's start to look how to do this. So let's start to look at how to create a custom label or legend with label for a line chart in Chartjs. So I have, and if you've seen one of my other videos, I already have one existing, but I have updated it now with a more better structure. So the first thing what we're going to do here, of course, is to go to chartjs3.com, getting started, this specific link here, and get the default code here. Let's copy all of this here, and if you want to understand what this code does, make sure you watch this video here that explains it all. So then I'm going to paste this all in there. I will cut this out, put it in there, paste, save, and refresh. There we are. So now we have a nice bar chart, but of course I want here not a bar chart but a line chart. So say here line, and this I will change to tension of 0.4. Save, refresh. There we are. We have this now, but I want my line chart to have a single color, but I want to have two data sets. So I'm going to copy this data set, put a comma here. There we are. And let's say here this will be the blue cells, and this is the red cells. And the red cells, this will be this color here. So I'm going to remove everything else. There you are. And then same here, I'm going to do the blue cells, so that will mean I have to remove everything except for the second one. The second one is the blue color. So there we are. So if I save this now, refresh, we have both of them, but they are identical in value. So we need to change this. So I'm going to say 9, 15, 12, 6, 15, 9, 6. Save, refresh. There we are. So now we have two items here. So what I want to do is I want to have some space here eventually for the label. I want to put the label here. So let's look at it. So we're going to do the following here. So here I'm going to say here layout. And then I'm going to put a comma here, and then I will say padding. And then specifically what I want is padding at the left side here, so we have some space. So this red sales text later on can be shown here and fit. So I'm going to say padding, layout, left side, and then let's say 25 pixels for now. So I say put in 25, save, refresh. There you are. You can see we have now some space. Most likely this is not enough, but don't worry. Later on we're going to calculate exactly how much pixel we need here, or how much space we need here. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to create a custom plugin as well. So I'm going to say here plugins, just make sure that it's after the options, and then in here column brackets, and then we can say here what would be a nice name, maybe custom legend. Basically it is a custom legend. Copy that, and then I'm going to say constant. This equals, and then I'm going to say here the ID, and then the ID will be equal to custom legend, comma. And then what we want to do is we want to draw this, and the moment we draw this, we can probably select this after the data sets has been drawn, or after everything else, this will be drawn. That can be as well. Let's say here after draw. So after draw, meaning that we draw everything, and at the very, very end, this will be shown. So we say after draw, and then what I'm going to say here, column. I'm going to say here 3 arguments: chart, arcs, and the plugin options. Although I won't be using these two here. And of course this, I need to make sure that we have this function arrow expression, because it's a callback functionality. So once we have this, what I want to do here is what we call object destructuring. If you want to know or understand what object destructuring is, I recommend you to watch my video. It's in the description box. Understanding object destructuring. So what I'm going to do here, constant, and I say here curly braces equals chart, and then no, not like that, sorry, put it in here like this, and then here I'm going to say CTX. Alright, so if I save this, if I refresh, of course nothing happens here. So what we're getting here. So what I want to do now is I have to hear the CTX. What we want to do as well is we want to get the coordinates here, probably from this point here, which is the left side here of the chart area. So I'm going to say chart area Let's get the left, and maybe we can do, I'll just put them all as for as a bonus, but of course you don't have to do them all. You can always remove the ones that you don't need afterwards. So I'm going to use here left, right, top, bottom, and maybe width, and finally height. So we have that. And once I have this, what I want as well, comma, I'm going to say here the scales. And then in the scales here, I want the X and Y value. So that is all of these items here of the object destructuring. So now we can use shorthands. So what I want to do here is the following. First of all, I want to save everything we have here above. So I'm going to say a ctx.saved, and ctx refers to the canvas itself. So now what I can do here is the following. What I want is basically this. I want to know if I'm going to put in some text here, I need to get the coordinates of this. So I'm going to say here, first of all, let's figure out what is the color and the font type. So I'm going to say ctx dot, and I'm going to say here font, and this font will be equal bolder. So we have a nice extra bold design. Then we have 12 pixel font size because Chartjs uses 12 pixels by default. And then the font family will be sans serif, which is default as well in Chartjs. Next, what I want is the color. So I'm going to say ctx.fill style. So we have the color, and the color will be hashtag 666 as our default. And later on, I will just get the official color of this line here. That will be very practical as well. So once I have this, the next thing what I want to do here is now start to draw or write the text. So once again, ctx.fill text. I want to do this. I'm going to just say here a default text. So let's say hello. And then what I need is two other values. One is the X value and the other is the Y value. So what we can do here, because we have the chart area, we have the left, and the left is basically this line here. What I want is basically the label starting somewhere here. And that's basically the one, or at least from here to there or something like that. So what we have to do here, we can just put in the left as our starting X value, and later on we can adjust that as we go along. So we're going to say the left, and we could even maybe, well, left is fine, I guess. Or we can even say 0 here to push it at the very, very beginning. But we can see that later on. The next one is the Y value. So the Y value is dependent on whatever the value is of here. If we start here, we have Y of 18 basically. But what I need is then, not the Y value of 18, but I need to know how much is this in pixels so that we can move in the right position. So how do we do that? I'm going to say here the Y. I'm going to use here a very, very specific command. I'm going to say here chart. And we're going to use here a dot, and we say get data set meta. And this is basically the information, or basically the command in Chartjs itself. Now we're going to say here the index. So in this case, the index will be depending on which data set index. Because we have two here, for now I'll just focus on number 18. This is dataset 1. The red one is, or index 0, the first data set. So I say here 0. And then, and this is in parentheses, pay attention here. Later on we're going to use curly braces. Or sorry, we're going to use brackets afterwards. So then I'm going to say data. And then I'm going to say here I want 0 and dot Y. What I want is basically the first value here and convert that into a Y pixel coordinate. If I save this, refresh, there you are. So what really happens here? So you might say, well, what's going on here? So let me just show you. Let's do a console log. Save this, refresh. Open up developer tab. Alright, as you can see here, we get all these coordinates here. And what we need is we can go here to the data, save, refresh. And when you see this data here, basically what we have is this information here of the depending on which data set we have. And then let's see, is that then here more specific, apparently it is even more deeper. So let's see if I can go to, instead of 0, because now we're just selecting one specific data. I want to have the 7 data points. There we are. So I have now all the data points. You can see here, we just get the X and Y coordinates here. So we can quickly pinpoint and move it in the right direction. So now we have this. However, we might not be satisfied because this is still hard to read. And I absolutely agree with you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push that to the back here. So what we could do here is basically the following. We can say here left. then minus 25 pixels. Save that. There we are, and we could say here, well, we maybe need even more. So how much more would we need? Well, we need to do a few things. First of all, we need to change here the text alignment. If you look at it right now, if I go back here, put this back on the original position, where exactly here, basically this is the left line here, the chart area, and then everything here, everything to the right will be written. So this is what we call alignment of left, because the left part will be skipped, and then starting from this point to the right. So that's very simple. That's basic CSS basically. But what I want to do here, because we need to do it here in Canvas, we need to specify it. We'll say here ctx.text align equals to the right. So instead of starting here and ignoring this part, I want to say start there and ignore everything here. So let's refresh. There we are. So now we get this, but we need to have still some space here, and that will be probably minus 25 pixels. If you're wondering why minus 25 and not plus, remember this is the starting point. This is 0. So the higher our value, we go more to the right side. So if I do this now, you can see here, there we are. But as you can see here, it's being clipped off. So we're going to solve this as well. So I'm going to do that afterwards. What I first want to do here is I want to get this accordingly by getting here the proper label name. So how do we do that? Now what we could do here is the following. I'm going to show you. What we can do here is to indicate here the data, I guess. So what I'm going to do here, data, because this data refers to this item here, and then we can quickly go deep in here. So make sure you have a comma here. And then I'm going to say here the following, or let me just show you. So I say here console log data dot, and what I want to do here is the data sets. So you say data sets index 0 to get the first data set, and then here we're going to say label. Am I correct? That is this one here. So if I save that, refresh, nothing changes here, but you can see here we get the red cells, which is correct. Alright, so now we have this, so that would mean we can just copy this, cut this out, put it in here. Save, refresh. There we are. We have the first one, but of course it's being cut away, but don't worry, we're going to work on that. So we have this color here, and I'm not satisfied with this color. What I want to as well is I want to get the official color that we use. So we all have to go here to the border color. There's this one here. Same methodology as what we did here. Instead of label, now border color. Let's copy this. Put in here. Say here border color with capital C. Save, refresh. There we are. Alright. So now we have this, and I can delete this. I put it here, and now what I want to do is a very simple for loop here, or for each. Why? Because we have multiple data sets. What happens if you have another one? We want to make this dynamic. So we're going to say here data sets, and then we say here dot for each. And then in here we're going to say basically this namespace here will be called now data set as a shorthand. And I need here as well the index number. So once I have this, a function arrow expression, there we are. Cut this all, put it in there, proper indentation. Delete this, excess space, we don't need, and then here make sure we have a semicolon that looks just far more cleaner. There we are. And now what I want to do here is we have this, but remember we have the index here, so this will be automatic depending on the data set here. So if I save this, refresh, there we are. Oh, alright, we can see here, I guess there's something wrong here. And as I see this, I probably can even fine-tune this a little bit more. And the reason why, as you can see, this is identical to that. So we can just probably just copy this here. This doesn't make any sense. Just put it here because the for loop will go through every one of these items. Same here. There we are. Because it's identical here. So save this, refresh. Alright, we get this. Now let's double check here. We're going to the blue color here. We have the data set there. We have this. Alright. This one here is the one we need to solve. Or at least this one here. Because this is the data set. So what I'm going to say here, copy that, put it in here, save, refresh. There we are. Now we have this. But of course, look at here. We are only seeing the cells. So I want to move this more. So what I can extend this one, we can check later on, but what I want to do here now is to solve this item here. This is padding, so if I do here, probably need 50 pixels about, or even more, as you can see here, so we have to figure this out, like that. Alright, but this, of course, is not very practical, so what I want to do here is just a formula. So what I'm going to do here, in the left, because it's a scriptable command, I'm going to say here, context. I'm going to make it a callback functionality. Then here, what I want to do is I want to copy this, and we do here a console log, and I'm going to show you what we're going to use. We're going to use some tricks here. Save, refresh. Alright, so we get a lot of this information here, and what I need here eventually is go back into chart, and then we go to CTX, and the reason why I need to go to CTX, I need to be in this canvas area, or this command here, so I can draw and use again canvas commands very similar to this. So I'm going to use a command here to measure the width of this text. So what I'm going to do here is the following. I'm going to say here context dot chart dot CTX, and then basically what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say measure text, which is a canvas command. And then here I'm going to just make it very simple. I'm going to grab one of these values here. I want to grab this. Let's do a hard code first, and after I will show you how we soft code this. We have that. And then I'm going to say a dot width. Save that. If I save this, refresh, you can see here the width, although it doesn't expand anymore, but the width of the text alone is already 46 plus pixels. Alright, that's interesting. So now what I can do here, I will just do here a return. And just grab this, put it in there, semicolon, save, refresh. Alright, so we have this, but of course it's not fully shown, and the reason why is basically this. We had here this point to that point, we have to calculate more. So what we could do here is I will just say, for the sake of it, this is maybe approximately, I think this is about 7 pixels. Here this space here between is about 5 or 6 pixels, and this here could be 10 pixels. So let's say here plus, or well, here we do plus because we want to define how much space in pixels we want to show from this point to here. So I say here plus 15, save, there we are. That looks already much better. So let's delete this, and let's make this now soft coded. Of course you might say, well, how can I get the longest text? Well, there's probably some formulas for that. I would recommend you to check that with array, maybe calculate which item has the most characters, something like that. But I will not focus on that. That's not the scope of this video. So what I do want here is I want to go back into this point here from the data to datasets, then labels here. To do that, we just need this here. Remember this chart here. Copy that, put it in here, or maybe just do it here above, and then we're going to use a shorthand. Constant, what we can call this, label text. I'll just call it label text, but you can give it anything you want, doesn't matter. So we say from chart, from context.chart to .data. So we are now in the data. Then I'm going to grab your dataset index 0, and then dot finally will be the item itself, which is the label. Copy the label here. So once I have this shorthand here. Now I can just put that in there. It saves us some time. Save, refresh, and there we are. So it will automatically calculate here. Of course, if I do this doesn't work yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out now how we can hide it accordingly. So what we're going to do here is we have this. What I want to do here, semicolon, and then here we say ctx.restore. And the reason I'm doing that is to undo anything we saved here, so that we don't impact anything more on the chart. To make the label that we have here hidden, if we click on this, and of course there could be a button as well here that you could hide it, but that's, or even make this clickable, but that's a whole different story and a whole different video for that to understand. But to make this, for example, like that, we want to hide that one because now the line is hidden. We have to do here something. So what we're going to do here is the following. Let's see here, we have this here. Then we're going to make some space here. And what I want to do here is the first thing I will say here, let color. And I'm going to give it a let value because I'm going to use this value twice. And there will be a condition on it. By default, I will say this will be a transparent color. Parent, alright. And the reason why is so it will be invisible by default. However, and that's the however, what I want to now is I want to check only if the visibility is true. In that case, I want to assign the specific color, which is basically this item here. So let's start to do that. So I'm going to create here a console log and use a special chart.js command. So this is here we say chart dot, and then we say is data set visible. And then here we put in the index number, and we can do here 0, but we don't have to do that because we can just say here index, because we have that in our for each loop. So if I save this and refresh, you can see here it is always true. And of course, because of the events here and the animation that we can see here, and you can see if I refresh here, you can see this is all moving nicely. Because of this animation, it loops through this multiple times. Anyway, so we have this here. So this is, by the way, as a result, equals true. So if I do that, you can see here now, if I do this as well, then they're always false because both are not being shown. Do that one, true, false, because one is shown and the other is not. So what I'm going to do here now is just an if statement. And this if statement is very straightforward. If this is data visibility of the index, depending on which index it is, equals true, equals strict true, in that case, what I want to do is I want to reassign the color, and this is the reason why I use the let value and not the constant, will be equal to data set colors. Put it in here. Then I'm going to copy this and say this color will be in there. So once we have this, we can do an enter here, save, so it will look nice, and I guess we can even delete this part. Save that, restore. Alright, click on this, there we are. Click on that, there we are. And there it shows back, and the animation appears as well very, very nicely with that. So that is basically how we can do this one here. And of course you might say, how do you do it on the other side? In that case, I have another video for that. And that video, what I would recommend is in this case, this one here, how to create a custom line legend for the line chart. And as I said, this is what I make. This video is an update compared to this one here, but here it works as well, but then in the other position. That's both. They're both like a series. This is part 1, if I'm not mistaken, and this one here is part 2. However, and if you want to make the buttons are also covered in there. However, the reason why I redo this one, because I had a specific adjustment that was necessary here. So we have that working. And we have this animation here, or at least this movement here as well. So that's basically the reason why.